Well, hello, my soul friends. It's Victoria on the Soul Nurture channel. I'm back. That wasn't really much of a hiatus, but I got what I needed. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Welcome back with me. I had to come on to speak about the full moon in Aries. It's really important for me. I just kept being called back to talk about this. I often say, like many astrologers, that astrology is a symbolic language, and one metaphor we can use is it's like the weather, the astrological weather. And this, looking at the chart and doing a little research into it and feeling into it, remember, this is my intuitive take. You're the expert of your life that's unfolding, you and your beautiful soul, your own soul guide. I'm just offering something from my soul to yours. If it lands, if it resonates, then it's for you. And if it doesn't, it's not for you. Okay. But I would say astrological weather would be pretty stormy. However, remember, when we go through the stormy seasons, the stormy times, the transformational waves, all this stuff that is helping us move forward to evolve into higher potential and possibilities. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's more of an, yes, I know we're tired of this, but another powerful growth opportunity to get us on track, align with our soul potential for individually and collectively, right? The anima mundi, the collective, the soul of the world, right? And that as we do our individual work and our soul work and make sure our inner worlds are reflecting the external world we want to live in. We're doing our part for the collective. Okay. So thanks for being with me. Straight away, I just felt on my heart to say this for anyone who needs it. I see you. You're doing a good job. You're doing better than you realize. We've had a lot of challenges individually and collectively that may have pushed you into self-doubt or feeling helpless. Powerless is more the word that I'm going to weave into this, my interpretation, my intuitive take of this full moon in Aries. You may have felt powerless. And tell me, by the way, if anything I ever say resonates with you, please drop a comment. The more comments, the better. And you're unlimited here. I want you to experience feeling unlimited. Say what you want. Comment as much as you want. I'm not really playing the get more subscribers game at this time because I'm just here to share a message from my heart and soul to yours. Maybe I'll grow more. I really kind of love that I am at 1,101. Let's see, how is it? I'm 111, 1,110 subscribers. So fun to click on and see that 111 on my own channel. But I mean, I'm not opposed to new subscribers. Welcome, welcome. If this is your first time, please do let me know where you're viewing from. I'd love to know. Even if you're a regular viewer, let me know. Remind me, because it's just fun to see where people are watching from. Okay, so yes, how are you doing? I just really feel like sometimes, and that's what I needed to do, I needed to step away for a little while. I shut down all the social things I was doing and the way that I was doing them because I just needed to be with me. And I feel like this is a call for all of us. Have you felt called to retreat more, to really get to know yourself, to spend more time in contemplation? Anyone? And also, for those of you who are drawn to this channel, I get a lot of people who are empaths, wounded healers, highly sensitive. And for all of us, we do need to step back from time to time, wring out our empathetic hearts from all that we've been gathering because we can feel heavy. Anybody relating to this? This is kind of where I was. Also, when you're attempting to be really vulnerable and authentic in the world, remember, we always have the shadow side of us. And the shadow is never complete. We can integrate and do our work, but there's always more to discover, to reclaim, to integrate, right? So like for me, and if you watched my last video, I put up in a vulnerable, authentic post because that's what I strive for. That's what I want to help mentor and be a soul guide for those who really want to reclaim the authentic expression, right? So I'm demonstrating that for you each and every time I make a mistake here, each and every time I say I got to step out. I'm part of you, right? We are each other. And so I offer that, just that message that came to me this morning when I was sitting in meditation. It happens that way. I'll get in my meditation. Is this for me? Is it for a client? Is it for the collective? I don't know. But just a reminder, give yourself credit. You are doing better than you realize. You're further along than you realize. And yes, we're looking at a lot of stuff together. We're looking at our what hasn't been working. We've been looking at where we're out of balance. We've been dealing with the access of the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra for a while now. Since let's see, April 2023. Is that right? It feels right. And so we've all collectively been called to see where we can do better in relationships, where we are in patterns of codependency, where we're out of balance being people pleasers, giving way more to others than we give to ourselves, where we have been operating in our relationships from inauthentic places, from what we learned as children that wasn't supporting who we are authentically in relationship. Okay. So I hope I have something that offers you support right where you are. Again, drop a comment if I do. And yeah, it feels great. It feels right to be back. I thought it was going to be gone for a few months. I truly did, but I did a lot of journaling, a lot of processing, and I was like, I got a lot of information. So hopefully this will be helpful to you. Okay. So I'm loosely calling this title, Wounded Healers Are Warriors for Healing, because of the aspects of this full moon. So let me break it down a little bit. First, I'm going to give you kind of the impression I got. I look at a chart and then I just write a few things and then I feel into it and then I expand it. So that's what we're doing today. Okay. So, this full moon May, and I like to say May, and if you catch me, and I do, a lot of astrologers will say this is going to happen. Only God knows what's going to happen. We can say this May, here are some possibilities, like it may rain, it may not, right? So this full moon may illuminate, and I love to say illuminate because that's what a full moon is, right? The sun and the moon are 180 degrees apart. So therefore the sun's light is shining on the moon. The moon does not emit any light of its own. So it's illuminated. And when the moon is illuminated, all of our interior world is illuminated. Our emotional world, our intuition is heightened. The moon, archetypally is connected to the feminine, to the mother. And so what may be illuminated for you is integrating the expression of the sun in Libra and the moon in Aries. The sun, this is like the axis of the peaceful warrior, or me, we. The Aries is me, Libra is we. Again, that's what we've been working with, and we will continue to work through. This is the last, by the way, we're done with the eclipse season, even though this full moon feels very eclipsy because of its potency. And that we are still working with these nodes, and that's where the sun and the moon are in the north and south node, even though they've moved out of conjunction, so therefore this moon is not eclipsed, but we're still feeling it, right? Are you still feeling it? What have you been feeling? What have you been noticing? So we're, the integration, and that is like the invitation with every aspect, every day, but I like to work with the lunation cycles because it's easy to follow, right? So with a full moon, it's a culmination point. It's something we set an intention with, whether it was the last new moon in Aries or, 2 weeks ago, when we were in, new moon in Libra. So there's these different cycles from new moon to full moon. It could be 2 weeks, could be 6 months. So, or it could just be just what the intention is in your heart, like what you're visioning for. Full moons offer all of us a beautiful opportunity to have whatever needs to be revealed to us that we aren't seeing, we've missed, we've got a blinder on, or we've avoided seeing. It illuminates what we need to see in order to move toward all that we desire, all that our souls desire. So, and then it gives us this kind of container of, here are some possibilities. What would it be like for you to be more of a peaceful warrior than just leading with anger? This potential of this full moon. Full moons can be heightened emotions anyway, but then we have a grand T-square, which squares can be is a hard aspect, and it can bring intensity. Again, not to scare you, just to say everything happens purposefully. Something may be pulled out of you, drawn out, or we may see it in the collective where anger is bubbling out, right? Anger, one way to think of anger is it's deep hurt expressed outward, okay? Or it's inability to wield the healthy masculine in yourself. Healthy anger is assertiveness, boldness. This is the call of Moon in Aries. But anything short of that is showing us where we're still wounded, and that's what we're working with this full moon in particular, because we have the moon conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer. So potent, so powerful. And so for me, well, let me look at my notes. I'm just going because there's so much here. Are you feeling it? I love when Chiron plays an important part of the story of the lunation cycle. I identify as being a wounded healer. Does anyone else out there? This is a term coined by Carl Jung, who identified that, through our wounds, we bring our greatest light, our gifts. I think I have a quote from Carl Jung up here. Let me just read that now. Only the wounded healer can truly heal. I think that original quote was actually only the wounded physician, because that was his lens he was looking through at the time he coined this phrase. But only the wounded healer can truly heal. So all of us, some people really identify with wounded healer. You've had a lot of wounding in your life, and you're called to healing yourself and others. And yet also, I hear a lot of discussion about the wounded healers. Well, wounded healers can only help heal once they've healed themselves. I think that's a myth. I think that we're all wounded in the human experience, and we are never completely healed in the human experience. I think when we are, we no longer need to be here, personally. So as long as you're continually healing, tending and mending your wounds, and what I call collecting or gathering the soul medicine you've cultivated, and you're giving yourself first that soul medicine, and then you're offering it to others, instead of the way that a chronic, unhealed wounded healer can be, and I've been there, is offering everyone else your soul medicine, everyone else. And I catch myself there all the time. In fact, that's why I stopped doing videos for a little bit. I was out of balance. I was giving way too much. I went into my unconscious people-pleasing and approval-seeking wound, rather than approving of myself and honoring myself and taking my own medicine, right? I've been saying this for years. I outlined a book years ago. Keep me in your prayers that I'll finish it. But the first title was Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. And I came up with that title 23 years ago with this idea for this book. And then I kept putting it off. And then I thought, that I've healed too much to kind of put myself down, like take my own advice, I'm not using it. It's funny, but part of my wound, and tell me if anybody identifies with this, part of my old wounding was I was teased a lot as a child, and so I would put myself down in order to be liked, like just humiliate myself. So that title felt humiliating to me. So I changed it, and I'm still working on it. But anyway, does anyone relate to any of that? I just love to hear when there's some connection here. And I do want to give thanks to someone. My last video, I said I'm going to peace out for a little while, and I truly, part of me thought I may not come back. I think I may be complete, because remember, it was during the eclipse. And I was saying, maybe this is what I'm supposed to release. And so I did. I let go and was allowing Creator to show me, am I supposed to do this, do these videos or not? And this lovely person, and I'm sorry I'm not remembering your name right now, but they found my video, that last video where I was going to quit. I hope this helps somebody. It's not just talking about me. I tell stories in order to see if anybody can relate to this. I decided to quit. Remember, I like to say too, there's a distinction between quitting and surrendering. Quitting means it's kind of like, and I will admit I was a little bit in the wound. It's kind of a wounded place. I quit. I give up. And so I like to say, never give up, but always surrender. So I found myself, like, once I said, I'm just going to walk away, I did move into surrender, which was beautiful. And then this beautiful comment came under the video, and I'm going to paraphrase it. You can look under the last, the new moon video, the new moon eclipse. And this person said something like, I've been watching other videos of other people, and I found you today, and you speak to me, and now you're going away. But that message, to me, this is how I work with the divine. I say, okay, I'm going to surrender. Give me a sign. That message started to call me back, even though I needed more time to process myself. So thank you if you're watching this video, but also as a reminder to each and every one of you out there, if you feel called to speak encouragement into somebody, please do. Those words, maybe I'm getting an image of like a life raft. The life raft they can hold on to until they can pull themselves up and out of the water. Okay? Oh, it makes me tear up. Okay, let's get back to the full moon. So this full moon may be illuminating. I talked about the oppositions are what we look at. What are the qualities of Libra? We're still in Libra season. The peacekeeper, the fighter of justice, or the one who wants justice and balance and beauty, ruled by Venus, and love and harmony. And then the moon in Aries. Aries is the warrior, the trailblazer, the bold initiator of new ways of doing things. It's the first house in the zodiac wheel, and that is like where we take our first breath. The Aries energy, new beginnings, initiating, right? But ruled by Mars, in a can be aggressive or powerful. Again, we're working with either the shadow or the gifted, the higher possibilities of the sign. So we need to balance them. Where is it helpful? This is what integration looks like for when you integrate the shadow or you integrate oppositions in charts. Where would it be helpful for me to be more assertive? Where would it be helpful for me to be more peaceful? Where would it be helpful for me to find balance in how I express, and when I don't say anything, when I sit in quiet, I sit quietly holding peace, or I need to speak up, finding that balance, right? So all this to say, we do need to address the shadowy aspects of ourselves, connected to the hurts we've suppressed, in order to reclaim our pure power and potential and purpose, okay? All of this is speaking to the astrology, and I'll talk to that in just a moment. So again, we have been exploring where we've been out of balance in relationships, stuck in those codependent patterns, putting ourselves after, putting others before ourselves, that people pleasing. And we've been trying to reclaim our authentic natures, North Node in Aries. So this moon in Aries, I think, is highlighting, still illuminating, where we're still in those unconscious patterns. I've been catching myself on the daily. I work with clients all the time, and I can hear them, even though they've been working on not going back to the old neighborhood, as I call it, those old patterns that came out of our early conditioning. They know where they want to go, and they're trying to reclaim their potential, and they're trying to stand in their own truth and their own power and their own soul desires. And yet it's so easy to slip back. Why? Because we're so conditioned. Well, we're reliant on others for our survival, right? And if our conditioning made it so that we had agreements with our people, with our tribe, that limited our light and our power and our purpose, and prevented us from achieving what we desire or going towards what we desire. That's what needs to be renegotiated. And then, yeah, so that's what we've all been working with and still will be until January of 2025. So at this time, and this I'm going to speak to specifically, and I'll go over this. This is, I'm speaking about Mars in Cancer, which is square to this lunation. Okay, so let me talk about the astrology real quick and I'll come back to this. Let me go back over here to the chart. And one of the things too, I really do want to get a little bit more a better setup where I can show you the chart. I don't have the setup for that. And I really, when I occasionally will look at other astrologers, I'm like, they just have it together. They just looking at the chart and circling things and pointing to things. And I really honestly stepped away because I was feeling like, there's people that are doing this in such a great way. What do I have to offer? I was in my wounds. I admit it. I was. And then I just got called back. Again, that comment really helped me. And then sitting with God and sitting in meditation and journaling really helped me clear the clutter from my own mind so I could see my soul and hear my own guidance. And that's what we're all called to do. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to, oh gosh, there's so much going on. I want to make sure I get it all. Okay. So we have 3 planets forming a cardinal grand cross. And that's 2 oppositions and squares. Okay, so a lot here. So we've got the moon in Aries and the sun in Libra, and the moon conjunct Chiron, so that's in the mix. Square Pluto and square Mars in Cancer. Okay, so that's like turning up the pressure, the intensity of this storm. I'm sorry to use that term. I'm mindful of, the hurricanes that have happened and the people that are still needing help and support. And, I know that FEMA's doing what they can, but both of these were just horrendous storms. And my heart is with all who are still trying to recover from that. And so maybe that wasn't a good choice of words. So forgive me. But yeah, this is intense weather. We're actually having intense weather in the world, and an intense world storms inside of ourselves. These storms, our inner storms, are to evolve us to higher possibilities, to another metaphor, because Pluto is here too. Pluto's in square, and also some other aspects I'll get to in a moment. It's like I kept having the image of the phoenix rising, right? So this is an invitation for us to rise higher and stronger. So let me see what else we've got in terms of the planets. And then I'll try to weave it together. I don't know if it even matters for me to tell you what planets are, engaged here or active here or part of the story here. But if it helps you, let me know. And if it doesn't matter, let me know that too. I know some of you are learning astrology. Some of you know astrology. Some of you just want to get the sense of what's it going to feel like. And I get that too. So yeah, we've got the sun at 24 degrees of Libra. So remember lunation cycles, you find out where the degree is and you find where that degree is in your chart. Since it's a full moon, we're going to be looking at 24 degrees of Aries. Where is that in your chart? That's the house that's lit up, right? For me, it's my 3rd house of communication. So that I could not talk about this full moon because I'm called to communicate, and there's illumination about how I communicate, what I want to communicate, what I'm called to initiate with communication. So where is that? So then we've got Mercury in Scorpio, which is helping us to really do the deeper dive, to look under the water or under the hood at your unconscious material to see what's happening. And I always say this, and this is why I offer a look at the symbolic language of astrology, this just archetypal expression of possibilities, because it points to where we're called to more individual transformation. I'm a soul guide and a transformational hypnotherapist, among other things. And this is like our map. This is like, oh, you are here, and here are the obstacles, or here are the things to grow through, or here are the things that are going to help sculpt you into a higher potential of you. Okay, so Mercury there in Scorpio, diving a little bit deeper, not giving up on, like, you're staying with your healing, you're staying with, this is the potential, staying with the getting to the root of the issue, right? It's like you almost can be obsessive about it, like, I really have to figure this out. I have Mercury in Scorpio. It's like we're the detective. So this is like a detective part of you that wants you to finally get underneath those niggling issues that have not let you be free to be your authentic self, right? We've also had Venus in Scorpio on the day of the full moon, though, on the 17th. It will be moving into Sagittarius. Woo, yay! Because Venus in Scorpio has brought some intensity in our relationships. Like, you can't overlook the things you're seeing. You know, Scorpio energy is like, I see everything, even though I don't want to see it, right? So in matters of love, seeing more places that you don't want to see, unless you're just starting a relationship, it's important to see it so you know, do I want this or do I not? What am I agreeing to here? And a greater chance of not going unconscious and overlooking things, those, you know, red flags, and also focusing on those green flags. Like, yeah, these are some good things. But there's been more intensity when it comes to relationships and with money and with our self-worth, right? So that's going to loosen up a little bit. And then Mars is in Cancer. And so and then let's see, we have squares. I talked about the squares and the oppositions. And then Venus is opposite. There's an opposition here between Venus and Uranus. Is that right? Yes. Venus and, so emphasis on relationships changing, quick shifts. Again, all the quick shifts, breakdowns to breakthroughs are pushing us through the rebirthing canal to get us to what we've desired, who God created us to be, and the possibilities God has for us, right? But it can feel like, I always say this, that we all want transformation, but we all want change, but nobody really wants to transform. But change happens. Life happens. We're in the middle of a very chaotic, political system or political election. A lot of chaos. Chaos precedes change. But change is just something's different. Transformation is we are different because of the change, right? And that's what we're going for. Okay. So that, and then I also noticed, Mars opposite Pluto. Now this isn't exact, but we're moving towards that, and we're going to have a few of these because Mars is going to go retrograde. I think these oppositions go through to April, if I remember correctly. I didn't double check that. Intense rebirthing, right? This is where we have to look through the lens of faith and hope in our own lives and in the collective world we share. Like, I know also I stepped away because I got a very bad case of PMS, political mayhem syndrome. I was just like losing it over things that I'm seeing in the world from my human experience. I was frustrated and angry and, and I felt powerless. Anybody else? So this full moon is calling us back to our personal power, what we can do, where we can be of service, and what we do have to offer towards the higher vision, the higher possibilities. Okay, so I got all that. Now let's go back to my notes of what I just downloaded some things here. Okay, so now that, especially that Mars in Cancer, Mars is naturally, is aligned with Aries, right? Let's move forward. Let's do things. Let's be direct and to the point. Cancer is more, the symbol is the crab, has the hard shell, has the vulnerability, so it may hold back more. So at this time, we may be noticing, oh, and by the way, this is interesting. So the moon is in Aries, which is naturally ruled by Mars, and Mars is in Cancer, which naturally is ruled connected to the moon. So they are in each other's, what is it called? Like each other's houses, like each other's, there's a word, domicile, I think it is. I'm not sure, but it just means like they're swapped. Like Aries should be in Mars and Cancer should be in, the moon should be in Cancer. That's what they're connected to. So they've swapped places. They've swapped, you know, the container that holds the expression of the energy. So Cancer is in the house of this fiery energy, Mars, and it doesn't like to be there. It wants to be cozy and nurturing and soft. And so, what may happen, and tell me if you've noticed this, and this is what may be up for us, is that we've suppressed, or all the places we've suppressed things that we didn't want to talk about because we didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We have just buried them, and they are like, getting agitated. They're surfacing, like they're, old hurts, like resentment and unfinished business. And it can surface as anger, but really like unexpected anger, because Cancer's like, I got it, I don't have it. Kind of like holding the beach ball down for a long time and then it just pops out. So it can come in unexpected ways. Mars and Aries can create like, I'm so hurt, I don't even have words. I'm just going to sulk, or I'm just going to do the silent treatment because I don't know what to say. Now, this Mars in Cancer, all the squares and everything aspecting in this full moon, you may feel like you're reverting to a younger stage of development, like your inner child that was wounded. And that's why a lot of times when, like, I hear people say, like my clients will say, well, I was so angry, I had no words. That my ears, my healer's ears hears, we've touched a wound where you were maybe nonverbal or didn't have the capacity to communicate. And so you're not communicating. So that part of you has been triggered open. That part of you, that wound at the age you were wounded, is activated, right? So these childhood wounds can be showing up, and they could be showing up in relationship. That is, relationships are our classrooms for healing relationships. Like where we show up in an intimate relationship, we show up with everything from our childhood that was unfinished, unhealed, and all the things we learned that were suppressing us. So that's where we're looking. This may go a little bit longer, folks. I'm sorry, I see I'm at 32 minutes already. My new friend who commented said, the longer the better. Again, if this video seems too long for you, pause it, come back to it, fast forward to another segment. Go at your own pace, but if I've got something coming, I gotta let it come. I'm just gonna keep going. Okay. All right. I'm not going to limit myself. Okay. All right. So yes, look for childhood wounds showing up in relationships, especially connected to abandonment or rejection. And I think we could say maybe connected to the mother wound. Okay. So our call, our invitation, our transformational invitation with this full moon is to tend and mend those wounded places, to acknowledge that when we're operating from our wounds, we are not empowered. And simultaneously with this full moon, we're being called to be empowered, to rise up powerfully with our gifts, and to see when we do that, we can see the world more clearly. We can see ourselves more clearly. We're no longer projecting our wounds and our wounded experiences onto others and onto the world, but rather we're, wielding these gifts as tools to help us trailblaze a path for ourselves toward what we desire, and also for others to follow behind us, right? This is what warriors do. This is what the wounded healer warrior does. Like, I've been wounded, I'm in a clear path now with my gifts, and I'm opening that for others to come through. And this is something I have to learn as a wounded healer. Like, I've been teaching people for 25 years now, and I have to always remind myself that if I've opened up a path and others are walking on it, I don't need credit for that. I'm just connecting to God. I'm being a vessel to guide people and to open those paths. And that's, I think, what wounded healers do. We open paths birthed out of our wounds and our healing journeys so that others can benefit, right? And then they can benefit others. So, okay. So we're no longer projecting. We're rising up in our power. And we're trailblazing new paths forward in bold and strong and powerful ways. Okay? So here are some keys for this healing for you. You can guess, right? Reparenting yourself, self-nurturing yourself in the way that you needed and still need, meeting those needs in the way you can right now. Okay? Also, finding healthy ways to express your needs instead of suppressing your emotions. Okay? I think, honestly, I always say we need to learn compassionate communication in elementary school. Start identifying compassionate communication is the nonviolent communication that we need to be able to identify, this is what I need, and this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I request, instead of exploding and yelling and pouring our toxic anger on other people. Because when people do that, they explode. And Aries can be that way. Aries sun, moon, or rising can be that way. Or if you've got something, Mars conjunct your moon or something, it can be just like, I got to get this painful hurt and anger out, so I'm just going to dump it on you. And then what happens? The person who is angry may feel better, but the person you just dumped it on doesn't feel any better. So this moon is inviting us to look at the way we are expressing our anger. Is it healthy? Here's how you know. Is it hurting someone else? It's not healthy. Are you suppressing it? That's not healthy. So you need to find tools to be assertive in your communication. And you can do that in a compassionate way. You can be strong and compassionate at the same time. I heard I was listening to Sounds True and Gabar Mate and Tammy Simon, and I've listened to a few of his conversations, and I tell you honestly, in my body, I feel afraid of him sometimes. And so they got into this conversation, and I could feel Tammy. I'm an empath. I could feel Tammy like, "Ooh, we got to get this back on track." And so then she said something about, she acknowledged it, like that argument we just had. And he said, "You call that an argument? I call that a discussion." Right? And so I don't know, like maybe I'm projecting onto him, or maybe he still has some work to clean up his communication. I don't know, but I felt for Tammy Simon, and I was thinking, yeah, but how cool it was for her to stay in that conversation, not to shrink or get small, but to stay right there with him, engaged in a powerful way. And then for him to say, well, that was just a discussion. I thought that was actually very helpful for me. Because there are many times in my tender heart, I will avoid conflict, or in the past, I'm going to use my tool right now. In the past, I would avoid conflict and avoid saying words that I felt needed to be said because I didn't want to hurt anybody. This is the time for all of us to compassionately witness ourselves and say, if I need to express, how can I do it in an assertive way and a compassionate way? So, okay, with full moons, we know, let's see. Also, this is one more. I have a couple of tools here for you. What did you learn from your mother about relationships that you don't want to keep unconsciously repeating? This is a big one. You might want to journal about that. And all of these things I'm going to be inviting you to, consider it as part of the full moon release. Full moons notoriously bring up what we need to look at, address, and then release, let go, and then grow the possibilities we need instead, okay? So one key thing, because this Chiron right there, so, right there with the moon, I like to call it harvest the gifts from the wounds. So here's a way to do that. Get out a sheet of paper, fold it so that there are 3 columns, or just draw 2 lines down. The first column, write down where you were wounded. This could take some time, but maybe just say 5, just do 5 at a time. Right now, just 5 places you felt wounded in your childhood, like you were ignored, you dealt with a lot of criticism, whatever. The second column, I would invite you to acknowledge what you want to release about that. I want to release the guilt, the pain about that. I want to release feeling small. And then the third column, I invite you to look at those times of wounding and address where you developed gifts that you most likely are giving to others that you need. Okay? Like, for instance, if there was criticism, you want to release the feeling of not being good enough. And then you want to claim the gift of being compassionate and encouraging, whatever the gift is, right? Okay, I already said find ways to develop, practice healthy anger. And if you don't know what healthy anger looks like, that's your inner work, or that's your soul work. You go and you look for people you admire for the way they are when they, like that interview, like just very strong communication, and notice if it scares you or you admire it. This is shadow. So also, because Pluto's in the mix of this story, of this lunation cycle, we are doing some shadow work. Shadow work is an everyday process in my mind as a human, because we're always bumping into our unconscious stuff, right? So who you admire for their ability to be strong and assertive, or also those who trigger you because they're too strong, right? That too is shadow. And so you want to claim that and then integrate that, okay? And if you want more on that, by the way, book a session with me. My website is in the description, or I'm still offering 20-minute consultations if you're drawn to that, okay? All right, let's see. Oh, this is really, really important, that Pluto is now direct in the very last degree, the anaretic degree of Capricorn. This will never happen again for another 250 years, not in our lifetime. So this is where we're completing the lessons of how our own inner foundations are, the structures of our lives, where we need to take more responsibility for the gift of our lives, for our potential, our purpose, and balancing out, well, balancing isn't the word, restructuring responsibility, personal responsibility. Some people overdo responsibility, take on more than their share, and some people don't take on enough of their responsibility. So that's what we've been, since 2008, we're working with personally and individually. That's what we're seeing in the collective, especially in the United States, where ultimately the government system has been going under this shakeup, this reconstruction, reconfiguring, so we can have a more solid foundation to go forward with, right? So we need stability, and learn the lessons from the past to apply to this present moment. Okay, I think that's it. I have a couple quotes, and then this is almost 44 minutes. Okay, I'm going to wrap up. I wanted to share this last quote. If you stayed with me this long, please let me know. I'd love to just give you extra gratitude, okay? So I love this quote from Henry Nouwen. When we become aware that we do not have to escape our pains, but that we can mobilize them into a common search for life, those very pains are transformed from expressions of despair into signs of hope. And with that said, I hope this video was of service to you, offered something to you. Oh, there's one more quote. I was like, I know there's something about service I wanted to say. I'll say this last one because I'll weave them together. Our service will not be perceived as authentic unless it comes from a heart wounded by the suffering about which we speak. It's another clarification. Henry Nouwen has written a couple of books, I think, on the wounded healer from a Christian perspective. So I hope now that something in this video from my soul service to you offered something that provides you with some hope. All right. Peace be with you. Thanks for being with me. And yeah, just grateful for all of you who do view, do comment, and send me private emails. And thank you for encouraging me to continue. All right. Take good care until next time. And let me know how this full moon's feeling for you. All right. Bye-bye.